Dang. Dressed in a button down. God.
Did not see that coming.
Jay Moore.
He's in the
the co-host of Big Red Wrap-Up, and our friend on Wednesdays during the football season joins us now from his lovely office. Good morning.
Morning. What you didn't expect a button up? What were you expecting today?
No, I was going quarter zip with a golf moniker.
And I said there might be a vest on top of it.
Yeah, that's usually a good bet, but you class it up a little bit. A little more for you today, for you gents this morning.
Okay, what's the occasion?
Thank you. You look fabulous on radio.
I got a face for it too.
No, you're on TV last night. You can't pull that.
You're a good-looking man. All right, let's be honest, Jay. Nebraska football is not normal. You have to get to 6. You're trying to salvage the season, salvage the future, fix something that has ailed Nebraska that clearly cannot be fixed internally. So you bring in a guy essentially off the streets. You're not changing a lot of the verbiage. He's getting to know players. He's got his couple plays. He's trying to meld it with the big playbook that he inherited. The guy that he's replacing is still on the staff. How for this Saturday is this all going to work out, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think how and why it's going to work is maybe we touched base on this last night, even last week when I chatted with you guys. But the ability to kind of be humbled as a head coach and Matt Rule and even Marcus Satterfield and the relationship they have to be, direct up front, have those tough conversations that have been had for a while. And to still have the trust and, the ability as Marcus Satterfield to, say, hey, I'm still in this thing. I'm not leaving. He could easily have said, see ya, give me my money. I'm heading out of here. And he's not. Obviously, he's saying that, coach of tight ends, they could have moved someone up from another spot and taken care of his role. So I just think there's a healthy relationship amongst all the coaches. So that's why I think this unique, never happened before situation is going to end up more positive than negative. I think having Holgerson's relationship with Rule in the past, and obviously playing against him at West Virginia, and then he was here in January, then wasn't, and then went to TCU, then hasn't been with TCU for a couple of weeks, and you bring him in, and I think that's and why it's going to work too is Rules want to get this thing right, and it's not a next season thing, it's not a next week thing, it's a now and it's a yesterday thing. There's no stone that's going to go unturned right now with Coach Rule to get this thing fixed in the right direction. If he has to bring other people in, obviously we know that he's gonna do it. And if he needs to make a change mid-season, he's going to do it. He's done it in other places in the past. But obviously with guys you bring in internally, I mean, I don't know if this has ever happened anywhere before. You bring someone outside the staff and you bring him in and he's now the OC or he's calling plays or whatever it is in the middle of the season. This is obviously very unique, but Coach Rule wouldn't have done this, in my opinion, if this was too big of an ask, too big of a stress on his team, too big of a stress on the offense. I think there's some familiarity with what they've done already this season and what they're going to try to do now for the next 3 games, hopefully 4 games with the bowl game. So I think it's going to, obviously time will tell how this thing works, but I'm excited to see it. I think it's going to be a pleasant surprise just to get this offense a little more efficient going forward and just trying to find another touchdown a game. I think that's realistically what you'd be, as a fan base, you'd be happy with. That the results of this is just, man, get us an extra 7 points to take some pressure off the defense that they've been under all year.
You mentioned this could be a positive. What part of the offense, and given Dana Holgerson's track record, but also considering the short amount of time that he's been inundated with this personnel, what types of things could be even subtle changes that you think could actually pay off pretty big with this offense?
Yeah, I think whether it's, air raid concepts, but whatever it is, I think one thing you can take from his style of offense, or you want the air raid, is the simplicity of it, and just kind of figuring out the things you do well and just continuing to do them. And I think that's what the nice thing is. He come in, he's going to identify what Nebraska's done well. And I know some people are like, they haven't done anything well. Well, they've done, this offense has done some things decently early in the year. And I think you need to kind of regenerate that energy in those play calls and that execution somehow, some way. But I think going forward, and I said this last night, is you have to, as an offensive coordinator, you have to put defenses in conflict. You have to put them in stressful situations. And that's getting one-on-one matchups with linebackers. That is huge. That is getting linebackers in space. That is making them cover in space. Linebackers don't want to do that, and they're not very good at it. You've seen it anytime a running back is one-on-one with a linebacker, 9 times out of 10 he wins. Anytime a tight end's one-on-one with a linebacker, 9 times out of 10 he probably wins, and it's just is what it is. So I think he's gonna recognize those mismatches, identify them, exploit them, get these guys in space where they're uncomfortable, and get defenses where they have to communicate. You have to. That's the hardest thing about playing defenses when you are doing, whether it's mesh routes or whatever you're trying to do, rub routes. You have to put this defense in conflict where they have to be in constant communication. You're coming out in a bunch formation and you're motioning to trips, whatever it is. You have to get guys communicating. So they're in constant conflict. And I think sometimes, as this offense in the past has been a little stagnant, they haven't gotten their guys set up pre-snap to have complete success in making sure that the play is ran properly, and to give Dylan the time and everybody to have success in the play. So that's first and foremost. He's going to set his guys up for success pre-snap, whether that's with motion, formations, but then putting defenses in conflict where they have to communicate, and getting getting Ja'Cory Barney in the slot and utilizing him from that position, getting Fedoni, getting Borkature, getting Bonner on linebackers, and just kill them. Just absolutely kill these linebackers on little choice routes. And it doesn't have to be explosive plays. It's like here, little dig routes, outs, outcuts, in cuts, choice routes, and linebackers. Corey Ross made a killing of his career in Nebraska, just eating up linebackers on choice routes. Utilize it, man. That's easy money. I'm excited to see if that's how it goes, but I think that's part of why it's not a drastic change. It's just getting guys in the right matchups to win the one-on-one their battles.
So it's to tweak the offense, but it's also to fix the quarterback. And I don't think it's no coincidence that Rule brought up Will Grier when he's talked about Dana, because he had to match up against Will Grier at West Virginia when Baylor played them. Then Will Grier played for Rule in Carolina, and Will Grier is still in the NFL. So Dana comes in, he's got the offense, but there's also the quarterback part of it. And, him and Dylan have already talked ball, and they're excited, and they talk at a high level about the intricacies of offense. But a phrase I've heard, Jay, and if you could walk us through what this means and what you do to accomplish this, I've heard the phrase, they need to settle down Dylan's eyes. What does that mean, and how do you go about doing that if you've just inherited a player that you don't know much about?
Yeah. Vision, and I wear out the phrase, especially from defense. Is eyes and how you see things and how you understand things with vision is really, it's a lot. It's a lot with athletics, whether it's any sport, how you identify things, and make sure you understand you're seeing the right things, and not getting caught up in the outside movements, noise, whatever it is. I know defensively, as a defensive end, a lot of times it's a lot of pre-snap stuff. You're looking at stances, splits in between tackles and tight ends, stances of a tackle, where his eyes are, where he's looking, where potentially if there's a fullback in the backfield, where he's offset to, where the back is offset from the center, because usually the center goes away from the back in pass pro. Just understanding pre-snap stuff with your eyes, And then during the play, and again, I know I'll get to the offense side of it, playing with your eyes, but from it, and then it's understanding the mesh point between the quarterback and the running back, and seeing that and trusting, and then seeing high hats with the offensive line. I always call elephants on parade, understanding that situation. So there's a lot that goes into it. And that's just from a defensive end standpoint. But then you put yourself in a quarterback where you're young, and you have a lot of footage now of you and where you've had success and where you haven't had success. So people are in start exploiting where you haven't had success. And when you're talking about settling your eyes is, when pressure's coming, Dylan's has had a bad habit of looking at the rushes, looking at the pressure. Eyes need to be downfield. You need to trust that the timing is going to be there. You got to trust that the right receiver is going to do the right things, but the eyes got to be downfield. You got to trust what you see. You got to see what they're doing pre-snap. That's huge. What they're doing pre-snap. Teams are going to try to trick you. Teams are going to try to, change things up. Pre-snap, they're going to show, maybe a one high safety down the box, and then boom, just before the play goes, they're going to roll to a two high look and more of a quarters look. Guys are going to, show press coverage, but at the last second, they're going to bail, usually in a quarter situation. So you just got to trust what you see and then identify what you saw pre-snap and then see what it is post-snap, because that's obviously what's going to tell you. But you got to trust your wide receivers to seeing the same things, or sitting down in the right areas, that they're seeing the same coverages and exploiting gaps and holes within the zone coverages. And obviously, if it's man, where to put the ball. A lot of times in man coverage, you see it all across football nowadays. A back shoulder throw is huge in man coverage. We've seen a good amount of that. But quiet in your eyes is just looking and paying attention to what's important. Don't get caught up in the, UCLA did a good job of moving the guys around up front. Their front 6-7 guys were kind of running around, not getting caught up in that. But that's hard, man. It's hard as a young player to have good eyes and trust it, and that just comes with learning ball and knowing it and developing. But yeah, I think just quiet his eyes is just pre-snap into post-snap, and not getting caught up in the excess stuff, and knowing, like I said, looking at the pressures, looking at all the stuff, and just being, you got to get the ball up quick, get it out quick. Don't try to do too much. There's a lot to it, but yeah, I think just with pre-snap, post-snap, and not looking at the pressure and the rushes, that's what good quarterbacks do. They sit in the pocket and they know they're going to get killed. They know they're going to absolutely get murdered, and they still are able to get that ball off and thrown into a perfect spot for their quarterbacks or their wide receivers or tight ends to catch. And he's done it at times, but I think as of late, his eyes have gotten him in trouble, obviously.
Jay, from a defensive standpoint, what USC is also introducing into this game is a new quarterback, and unfortunately, I haven't seen that much of film other than his time at UNLV in Maeva. But you do know that there's going to be a little bit more run element than there was with Miller Moss. How much of this is still trusting what you do from a conceptual standpoint defensively as opposed to the individual self, the quarterback himself that you're actually scheming against? Because I feel like sometimes people think, oh my gosh, there's no film on him. Well, this is a major disadvantage for the defense, especially the fact that he does have a run element. But how much of just the overall knowledge and what is already installed with this defense can serve them pretty well?
Yeah, I think anytime you have a quarterback comes in that's more mobile, you're just now playing 11-on-11 football. You don't have that free safety that's able to kind of sit back there because the QB doesn't really factor into the run game. Where it really factors, what I've kind of already alluded to, is it forces your defensive ends, your linebackers, and safeties that come down the box to play with good vision on the quarterback, understanding those mesh points, understanding how when you get blockers down and you're in an inside zone, outside zone read situation with the running back, keeping your shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage. You can't get turned. Otherwise, if the quarterback keeps it, you're toast. Happened against Isaac Gifford against Ohio State on a third down play where they picked it up with Howard. Nebraska hasn't played a ton of mobile quarterbacks this year. They haven't. Howard is one of the more shiftier ones. Yeah, I think Northern Iowa tried to do some stuff to him, but I'm thinking back. Purdue's guy had some mobility, but obviously not Rutgers, and then Illinois' guy. There wasn't a ton of run element. So I'm excited to see what this brings, but it's just you just got to play more disciplined. As your front four, your rush lanes become very, very important. You got to understand where your help is. When you're to the QB's throwing side, which is the left end, whoever it is, keeping him contained on that side is very, very important. You can't allow him to get outside the pocket. You got to force him up the middle where you can come downhill and make a play on him. Communication's got to be important between your front four. If you're going to make an inside move on a tackle, you better tell your guy inside of you, hey, cover me up. I'm going to go inside, so we don't lose contain. Just simple things like that. But vision is important. Keeping shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage, and just playing with the eyes is huge when you're starting to play it in a QB run game. And unfortunately, I think Nebraska's eyes have been poor this year defensively, especially on the back end. Not saying they can't get it fixed, but they've struggled at times seeing and feeling and seeing those things that should tell you, boom, this is a bootleg, this is a QB keeper. Just they're having a hard time identifying those things that you need to see, and that good players and good defenses understand the see to say, hey, boom, I can't come downhill because I know this isn't a run play. I can tell the hi-hats of the guard right away. I can tell the tight ends in a wider split because he's trying to get out to his route. If he was in a tighter split, it's probably a run play. Just little things like that good players with good vision can kind of slow themselves down and recognize. And it's hard too when you're tired, man. Your brain's going 1,000 miles an hour. You can get lazy real quick with your eyes, but the good ones can kind of slow themselves down and look for those little keys and things like that. But they're going to get tested. They're going to be tested, and I think it's another it's a unique situation for them to bounce back. I think this defense has done a good job of bouncing back after not so great performances. They didn't play very well in that first half against UCLA. Obviously played better in the second half, but it's a good time to bounce back and prove themselves right. And like I said, hopefully they can just the pressure's been put on them way too much this year, obviously with offense, but hopefully they can still bow up and continue to play well.
Yep, I agree. Jay, as always, we appreciate it. Good stuff last night from you and the guys, and also a visit from Troy Dannon. Always look forward to our chats on Wednesday. Have a great week, my friend.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
It's Jay Moore. He joins